afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome to Work Life Leader Live. My name is Julie Cohen. I am the CEO of Work Life Leader. We are a leadership development, executive coaching, and training organization. And I'm thrilled that you're here for the next episode of Work Life Leader Live. This conversation, I don't know if I'm a podcast or live stream, whatever you want to call me. Work Life Leader Live is a place where I am fortunate enough to have conversations with smart people about the intersection of work, life, and leadership. And so today, and like my other past episodes, I have the honor of a really great guest and a really great topic. So with no further ado, I want to bring on my guest, Kristen Ziegler. Kristen, you're muted. Unmute yourself.
Hello.
All right. Wonderful. It's great to see you, Kristen.
Nice to see you too, Julie.
Well, let me tell everyone, first off, I want to welcome any people we have who are tuning in. We just launched, so it sometimes takes a little bit to get everyone on board. But if you are watching us live, today is Friday, June 13th, 2025, and it is 12 p.m. Eastern. Kristen and I are both sitting in the Philadelphia area. So if you are here watching on any of the platforms that we broadcast on, please introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from. Use hashtag live. And also, this is an additional thing I'm asking today's viewers. Let us know what generation you identify with, okay? So again, please put that in the chat box and we'll say hello. But let me tell you a little bit about today. So today, as you can see in our subtitle, our conversation today with Kristen is around, it's called Millennial at Work, from the Office of a Thriving Young Professional. And that is what Kristen Ziegler is. So I want to start by just introducing her. So Kristen is a market expansion executive at Interpros Consulting, which is a women-owned staffing and recruiting solutions firm. Kristen has a bunch of amazing skills, including exceptional client service, understanding firm requirements, and adaptability in providing timely solutions. She's contributed to Interpros being recognized for outstanding customer service and staffing solutions. One of the things that has intrigued me and inspired me about Kristen is, in addition to her professional work, she's actively involved in a variety of community service activities. She's a board member for the Greater Delaware Valley chapter of the National MS Society. She's also director at large for volunteers and engagement for the Philadelphia Suburbs chapter of the Healthcare Business Women's Association. And last but not least, there's more than last but not least. She's also co-chair of the Emerging Leaders Committee for the Power of Professional Women. And last but not least, and how I know Kristen is she is the lead instructor at Cycle Bar Abington. She is a killer athlete and definitely creates some of the best playlists at Cycle Bar. So welcome again, Kristen. How's that for an intro?
I love it. And I have to give a shout out to Julie because we do Sing Along Sunday for Julie and her husband. So they're a driving force.
Yes, I am a regular multiple times a week, but Sundays are always my favorite. So before we do our icebreaker, so for those of our regular watchers, we know we always get started with an icebreaker where we want audience members to share something about themselves while Kristen and I do the same. I want to reintroduce us. This is Work Life Leader Live. You're watching a conversation called Millennial at Work from the Office of a Thriving Young Professional. I do want to also acknowledge, although, this title and this topic we're talking about, related to generations. Obviously, the millennial generation is often in the news, and there's lots of they're kind of a leading generation in the workforce right now. We're not going to be making stereotypes. Kristen is not here to talk about all millennials and kind of the one and only way of being in the workplace. We actually want to hear from everyone, regardless of your generation, and your thoughts around work and what it means to be a thriving professional. So with that, we're going to get started with our icebreaker. So the question I'm posing to Kristen and to those of you who are watching is, why do you work? And Kristen, before you answered, I want to invite those of you who are watching, and I can see from my panel, there's definitely folks watching. So if you're here and watching, think about that question. Why do you work? And please share your answer in the chat box. And again, if you can let us know what generation you identify with and that you're watching live, use #live. Okay, enough. Now we're into the meat of the conversation. So
yeah.
Kristen, why do you work?
Why do I work? So I guess the easy thing would say is like, I need the money, right? You need money to work. That's the easy way to say it. But for me, why do I work comes back to being able to live life and do the things that I want to do. So it gives me a sense of independence, purpose, and the opportunity to travel. I love to travel, love to go on vacation. I obviously, if you see behind me, love to go to Disney. So I have my ears proudly on display. So it gives me the opportunity to do those things with my time and to do life kind of on my own terms, right? I like working. I like what it gives me outside of the 9 to 5 as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what I hear you saying is work both is a financial, it's nuts and bolts for enabling you to live the life you want. And it's also a means to, being able to really flourish and enjoy, what's important to you.
Yep.
All right. Well, anyone, again, I haven't heard anyone yet. So please, this is low stress. To please share your thoughts. I'm going to share mine on why I work. Because this is actually, in my work as a coach, the answer to this question often impacts how people make decisions that really can either support their satisfaction or work against their satisfaction. So I'd love to hear from other folks. Please, if you're watching, please put in the chat box, why do you work? So why do I work? Yeah, I mean, bottom line, financially, I like to make money. I like to support my family, along with my spouse, and that's important to me. And I'm really fortunate that I love what I'm doing. I like to help the people who are my clients and my customers and my, the folks that I get to serve. And I use that word serve very purposefully. And so I do feel like my work does serve kind of the greater good, even if it's just impacting one person or, a few people or, hundreds of people who might be in a training session. So that's really important to me, is that making an impact on the people around me. So so that's
a purpose, right? It's like get up in the morning and do something, right?
Yeah. And for me, my career is a lot longer than yours from age.
No way.
I know. It's the gray hair gave it away, right? And that hasn't always, that purpose piece hasn't always driven it. When my son was young, I worked, a big piece of the reason that I worked the way I did was it gave me the flexibility. Mm-hmm. I left a corporate job before I had my son, but that was an intention, is that I wanted more autonomy over my schedule and time. Yeah. When, we decided to have a child, and again, very fortunate, very privileged that I've been able to build my career around, being able to be, a parent the way I wanted to be. Yeah. So that's been interesting. All right. So we don't have any brave souls who are sharing yet, but we have some great questions. Yeah, we'll get there. And one of the exciting things about this live stream is we actually get most of our people afterwards. So a lot of, maybe the Friday before, I don't know if it's a holiday weekend, but maybe the Friday before people are out and it's a nice day in Philly, they might not be on their screens, but we're going to continue our really cool conversation. So next question. Let's start by getting to know you and your work. You've been at your company for 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah.
So last Friday was 9 years.
Oh, really? You had your anniversary?
Just had my anniversary. Yep.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And so what's interesting about that, in today's world of work, especially for young professionals, This is an oddity.
Yeah.
I can speak of, I'm fortunate to know a lot of young folks, and you're more than welcome to share your age. You're not required to. So what's kept you in one place for such a long time?
Yeah. Well, I'm 31. I don't
Okay.
mind sharing. I so when I started my job, just to give a little background, I came right out of college. I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I couldn't have told you then that I thought I'd be somewhere for 9 years. I didn't know what that was going to look like. And I would say what has allowed me to be here for 9 years and to be looking to that decade and beyond is the people that I work with and the openness of the organization. So over these 9 years, I've grown up and they've allowed me the space to grow up and to find my voice and build my brand and be able to establish myself as a professional and have that open dialogue about what it looks like for me. When I find that itch that maybe would allow you to start looking at other opportunities, I feel very empowered to speak with my leadership at all levels and say, hey, I'm getting the itch. I want to do something a little bit different. And that dialogue is encouraged to help us continue to build what we're building.
Right, right. So, I mean, when I hear that, I hear growth and like a trajectory that, is what you want, that you're moving in a direction that you want to go. And that, relationships matter. And
Yeah.
we are going to get back to that question when you said building your brand, but not yet. So,
Yep.
So that's that again. And, it's interesting, I talked about the unique nature of, a younger professional being in one place in 9 years. I just want to shout out to your organization
Yeah.
in that sometimes what they're providing is unique also. That
Yes, definitely.
that they're investing in you and they're making it sounds like a space where you can say, hey, I want more of this or want less of this, or I want to grow in this way. Can you do that for me? And so it sounds like it's a great match with
Yeah,
the organization.
It's a mutually respectful match and conversational. And that to me, if I were in a workplace where I didn't feel like my voice mattered or I wasn't being listened to or considered, that wouldn't work for me. I like to have a voice. I like to voice my opinion and not just to say it. I feel heard and understood. And even if the outcome isn't necessarily like, oh, Kristen's right, we're having productive conversations and we're getting to a solution, and everybody allows for that. And to me, that is so important.
Yeah, and I've seen frustration. So in my work, both as a coach and a kind of trainer and leadership development consultant, I'm fortunate to work with people from their mid late 20s up to kind of the later parts of their career, and also work with organizational leaders, but that subset of younger professionals, and again the ones that come to me are usually actually similar to you, are in leadership roles. Their organizations have said, hey, we want to invest in this person or this group of people because we want to keep them. And so what I often see is that successful match of a person, a younger professional willing to stay in an organization for a longer term period. It's they are getting invested in, they are heard, their voice matters.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And as we think about what that is, it's not just related to work either. I think something that I'm sure we'll discuss quite a bit when we talk about work and outside of work is the organization is also very supportive of the things that matter to me. And these organizations that you mentioned that I sit on boards for, co-chair, and sometimes that time overlaps with the 9 to 5 hours, right? And they give me the opportunity to do the things that are purposeful for me, that fill my cup and my passions, and get my job done and allow for that blend to happen. And they both help each other in the end.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So we have we have a comment already. So, and this is someone that you know.
Yeah.
Hi from Tara Delaney.
Hi, Tara. Jumping on.
She's worked with Kristen in the past and stayed in touch, even after moving into her new role. She said, for Google, I'm part of Gen Z, but she can relate better to millennials. So, Tara, if you could tell us more about what is it about, like, and again, we're talking generalities, but what I'm curious about is what you're thinking about. Like, what is it that nuance, or what, you know, again, what the stereotypes around millennials and Gen Z, what you relate most to, like what drives you. So this is let's move to the next question. And Tara,
Sure.
we'd love to have you answer questions. And again, let me reintroduce where we are. So this is Work Life Leader Live, and we're talking about millennials at work, and we're calling this the from the Office of a Young Professional. And that young professional today is Kristen Ziegler. And she's sharing some insight, and we really want to hear from the wisdom of those of you who are watching. And by wisdom, we mean your own experience, because that is your wisdom. That is what creates wisdom. And we want to share that with others. So let's, I'm going to go out. Kristen and I, we kind of came up with some questions that we felt really important. I'm going to jump around from the order, because I think you're bringing up some really great topics. So, what does work-life balance mean to you? I've done a lot of work around work-life balance. I've written a book. That phrase work-life balance over the years comes in and out of favor. So when I say that, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So similar to what I said before, is that work-life balance to me is the opportunity to both be successful and get what you need to do done for work, but also be able to pursue the things that fill your cup outside of work. So things like my volunteering my time for the MS Society, that's heart work for me. That helps fill my heart as I move through the day, or being able to teach spin classes and knowing that sometimes that means my class is at 5:30 on a Monday night. So 5:30 on Monday night, I'm not available for after work, events or things like that, but it fills my cup and my spirit, and I'm entertained and I'm moving my body and I'm filling that cup. So for me, work-life balance is, it's never all one or the other, and a day is never the same, but it's the ability to flow with what needs more attention at a given time. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I hear you saying, it's the there's a component of flexibility and autonomy, so you can make choices. Sometimes even that have an impact on your work, where you may you pull in something external that's critically important to to you, whether it's your heart or your body or your mind. Each of these different activities nurture that. So my company is called Work Life Leader Live. We talk a lot around this work life intersection, and my belief is, and I think this belief is also really empowering, which I think you're reflecting, is that what we call work-life balance is just a very personal choice and decision that we make at all times. And there isn't one definition, there isn't one fit. And the gift of feeling satisfied around work-life balance is that you can make choices, that you have some autonomy, that you're not boxed into only work in one way or the other. So
and I think when you're looking at work-life balance, I think it's also important, and I think sometimes when the term gets thrown out, maybe people feel like, oh, that's just because they want to be, I don't know, insert whatever generality you might hear about what a work-life balance. But I think it's remembering that it really does need to be a balance. So one week I might have more of this personal project work that's going on, but sometimes like work needs to be a longer week. It needs to be a morning event, an evening event. You need to spend the time there. So what that balance looks like is also, to me, how you build trust with your management, your leadership, and the give and take makes a lot more sense when you build the trust. And sometimes that work, it's really more work than it is personal. For many of times.
Yeah. So tell me, how do you make career decisions?
Well, I'm lucky that career decision wise, I've been in the same place for 9 years, so I haven't had to do a lot of like career. What do I look like, and how do I move to this company or that, or decide I'm going to go somewhere else? That's I'm lucky to have that. But for career decisions, I make them with I say like my board of directors. I'm sure you've heard that term many of times. So the people that you trust, there's professionally folks within my organization that I'll go to help make decisions. I, in all of my work with women in Healthcare Business Women's Association, Power of Professional Women, these fantastic organizations, I am surrounded by brilliant women who I can call and ask for their opinion, whether they're in my industry, out of my industry, in a role that I aspire to be in. So I'll find someone from that group. And then my family. I have an awesome family. You know my sister well. And she probably could write a diary about my entire every day. She knows what's going on 24/7. So it's what's the problem? What's the career decision I need to make? Do I need to have a hard conversation with a client? Okay, maybe that's a conversation I talked about internally, or hey, I'm feeling stuck. What should I be aspiring to? Maybe I'm looking outside of my organization to some other brilliant women in the Philadelphia area and beyond.
So it's interesting, and I'm going off of our.
Hey, nobody likes a path that's just drawn the way it is.
Exactly. Well, because I think of some young professionals that have been clients and that I've worked with in the past. I've interacted with folks who've had a lot of anxiety around work. And one thing I experienced with you in many conversations, that are often short, but just, how I've gotten to know you, I don't see that with you. I don't see a lot of career angst or career anxiety, which, again, if I'm doing some generational stereotyping, I sometimes see that with younger professionals. Rightly so, because a lot of this age group have come of age in an environment where the world of work was very insecure, or you've come up through, financial challenges.
Yeah.
You weren't guaranteed a job when you graduated college or came out of high school, those kind of things. The loyalty between organization and company, organization and employee, is gone. I mean, that used to be a thing, and it's not. So I'm curious about that. If you see kind of anxiety or angst around, your career, your answer to that question around career decisions, is again, why we're talking.
Yeah.
Thriving young professional, you're not experiencing that. I'm curious if that's something you feel you've done deliberately or organically, or, thoughts if you see that around you with your peers.
I certainly see it. And because the nature of our work is recruiting, we're talking with folks who are either looking to make a career transition, maybe we're laid off. So I'm talking with folks all of the time about this, and be it my friends that are, same age, their frustrations around work. I hear that. And sometimes consultants or our folks that are out working, we're hearing how the job market is. And, the companies, I've given the company so much and they just laid me off in this cut and I didn't see it coming, and I have a family to support. So I see the anxiety out there. And I feel very blessed to be in an organization that doesn't make me feel that way. But I think it comes back to, for me, the lack of anxiety comes from the relationships and the trust within the organization, and that mutual respect that I'll come back to a lot with the people that I work with. But as far as externally, and when I'm looking or reading articles about the workforce, anxiety runs rampant, because how do you live your life if you don't have what work gives you, right?
Right.
Super. Unless you're independently wealthy, you never know, right?
Right. And I don't think we're targeting that.
I don't think they're interested in what we're talking about.
All right. That's if you tuned in and you're independently wealthy, let us know.
Give us a call.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, I'm going to reintroduce and see if encourage people, because again, I can see folks are watching. We'd love to hear your thoughts on your relationship to work. Do you feel like you're thriving at work? If you are, what gives you that feeling? If you're not, what's missing from your work? We'd love to hear your comments. If you have questions specifically for Kristen or for me, as an executive coach and kind of career advisor and leadership advisor, we'd love to hear from you. But you're watching Work Life Leader Live with Kristen Ziegler and me, Julie Cohen, and we're talking about we're really actually talking about life at work, like what makes work work. And we're doing it through a lens of a millennial who is a thriving professional. So we'd love to hear comments, answer to any of the questions, or if you have questions for Kristen. I know often a lot of people in my in the audience to Work Life Leader Live are HR professionals and leadership development consultants. And so if you're watching and kind of coming from that lens, what are you curious about? We'd love to talk about that too. So let's. You mentioned this earlier, and I want to move back to this question. You mentioned the concept of personal brand. Now, it's funny. That's another term that comes in and out of like favor over the years. I've taught classes on developing your personal brand, and people loved it. Sometimes people are like, "Oh, I don't like that concept. That's too salesy," and I'm like, the world is sales.
Yep.
And you're in sales.
I'm a salesperson.
Let's talk about that. So how do you build your personal brand? I'm curious what you perceive your personal brand to be. So let's talk a little bit about personal brand. So those of you who are watching live, it is Friday, June 13th, 2025. It's a little after noon Eastern. So regardless of where you are in the world, if it's June 13th, put some questions in the comment box on whatever platform you're listening to, and share what your thoughts around personal brand are. All right, Kristen, tell us.
Yeah, my thoughts on personal brand is that it only works and develops if it's authentic and true to who you are and what you care about. So when I talk to folks within our organization about building your personal brand, it's about having an openness to share who you are and what you care about. So I know that the people that know me and get to talk to me know that I am passionate about women in the workforce and developing and empowering women leaders across all industries and lifting them up and having not just a seat at the table, but a voice that is heard. I am passionate about the philanthropic work that I do with the MS Society, with the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia for the Philly Spin-In. And then, of course, I'm passionate about my role at Cycle Bar and being an instructor and being someone who empowers. So I would say that if we go through all of those three things, my brand, the word I come back to is empowerment. I want to empower women at work. I want to empower those that need that assistance. How can we help to empower and lift up people's lives? And the same thing, I hope you feel that at Cycle Bar as well. So that to me is building your brand. But how do you put that in action? It's speaking to people about the things that you care about, not being afraid to post that event on LinkedIn because you don't know who it's going to touch, right? All of these things that allow people to know who you are and what you care about. And if you're being authentic, you don't have to put on airs at work. You know what you care about, and it bleeds true if it's coming from a good place.
Yeah. Well, so I can both acknowledge you just as a receiver of your authenticity. As I mentioned earlier, I got to know Kristen through spinning, and I remember my first time going into Cycle Bar. It was probably about 2 years ago, and it was more than 2 years ago. I can't remember, but I was nervous. I mean, I'm in good shape. I thought myself kind of fit, but I'd never done this, and I needed a good cardio workout. And it was hard. It's still hard, but it was really hard in the beginning. And I'm used to like being good at things, and I was like, I'm not good at this. And then I remember at the end of each class that you taught, and a couple of your peers, because you've obviously trained them really well, they'd say, come and ask me questions. And I did, because I was like, okay, she's saying that, and it felt authentic. It felt like you were reading a script. And then I started to learn that some of the things I was struggling with were like, okay, that's just part of the journey. And then other things that I hated about spinning, you guided me to keep going. And so, some of those things that you do in the spinning class, I'm imagining you do those in the world of work and with your customers and things like that. And it makes a really big difference because of authenticity.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for sharing that. It's funny. An exercise that I did, and just I'll put on my coaching hat for anyone who's listening and is thinking about their brand. when I started coaching, I mean, this is like 25 years ago with my first coach, she advised me, again, I can't remember what it was. It wasn't called personal branding back then. It was something else. And she gave me this activity, and I have clients do this over the years when when they want to get clear on how people perceive them. I sent an email to probably like 20 people that I knew really well. And in the subject line, I said, please respond right away. Don't think. Something like that. And then they opened the email, and the email said, you're getting this email because you're someone that knows me well and that I really trust and respect. Could you hit reply and include 3 adjectives that you think are my strengths? And first off, in like 10, 15 minutes, and maybe a couple hours later, I was getting these gifts in my email box. Like, people were writing these words. And I was like, oh my God, I never saw myself this way.
Yeah.
So actually back then I was probably your age. I was probably in my, early mid 30s. And I was like, oh, wow, I didn't realize that. And that helped me start thinking about how I wanted to be. And there were some surprises, and then there were some themes.
Sure.
And so if you're not sure, hey, what is my brand? That's a really easy exercise. Now you can text it. Text the question, hey, do this. Please do this. If you want to go even a little further, you can say, what's something, is there an adjective that you think I might, that I annoy you with? Or is there an adjective that, an area that you think I could improve upon?
Yeah.
You don't need
I
to
think those ones are like the most useful if you can try to find, we did this this training, and it was like find your blind spot. And that's what you need, those mentors and those people that you trust to tell you what it is, because you don't know. It's blind to you.
Yeah.
So if you're open to that, it'll help identify the things that maybe you either are blind intentionally or unintentionally blind to, either one. But it's so funny you mentioned that exercise, because a great mentor of mine, her name is Shelly Potente, I'm not sure if she's on today, but did that exercise with me about 9 years ago at the first event I met her at Power. We sat down, and that's how I crafted my LinkedIn bio, is based on those responses. So
yeah, that's great
exercise.
I literally have, you can't see you can see a bunch of my books, but there's a notebook up over my shoulder that I probably have that original list somewhere.
Yeah.
And
it'd be interesting to see how it shapes over the years, right?
Yeah. And maybe I'll do it again. The 25-year remix.
Amazing.
All right, let's see. I got a comment. Let's see. Oh, Tara, I missed your comment. Oh, no, I didn't. You just sent it in. All right. So Tara went back. So like Kristen, I've been at my job for some time. It will be 11 years in December.
Therefore,
I've had experience with work life pre-COVID. Some of the general commonalities I hear with Gen Z is that they put more emphasis on work-life balance and remote working. To me, I feel like my attitude towards working is doing what needs to be done, even if it means working more hours and meeting in person, sometimes referred as the hustle culture. Lastly, I feel secured and valued in my role. And, oh, you know what? It ran out of space on my screen. So I can't see the rest of that. If you want to add the rest after the and, Tara, please do. It's interesting on your comment from a generational standpoint. I strongly identify as Gen X. The issue of what you say, put more, to me, I feel like my attitude is doing what needs to be done. Like, to me, that's pure Gen X. I literally, my motto is just get shit done. I mean, that is part of my brand is, if I'm doing something, it's going to get done, and it's going to get done well. And yeah, and so I do see that as a stereotypical Gen X kind of mentality. The stereotype around that is because we were left home alone young, and we just had to take care of ourselves. So, but I digress. Okay, so see, remember I told you
when you're having fun.
So I want to get to a couple more questions because we're going to wrap up in the next 5 or 6 minutes. So personal brand, authenticity. I have so many good questions. Okay. I'm going to do 2 more. So let's flip this. The look at the other side. What's your biggest frustration around work?
Let's see. Biggest frustration around work. It kind of varies day to day. So I'm having a pretty nice week. So I don't have a lot of frustrations right now, but I think it's just, it's hard to say it's a frustration, but it's a frustration with myself at work and having patience to let things happen that need to happen. Like I've been in my role for 9 years and I've always wanted to be in the next thing and be ready for the next challenge and move. And sometimes, especially when you're working in an organization that's a small org, you just need to practice patience and help lift or put the bricks down to get to where you want to go. And I want everything to happen now, just like I want every response from an email right away. I want every client to sign the document immediately, right? So practicing patience, I think that's my biggest frustration, is I want things to happen really quickly.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that is, I guess that aligns with your personality style, both inside and outside of work.
Yeah.
And some people watching this will relate to that, and some people will be like, "Oh, that's not that." That to me is another acknowledgement of your authenticity.
Yeah.
And I think people who thrive and who are very successful, often have that ability to keep going, keep going, keep going, and yeah, you want to balance kind of being present in what's now with wanting to bring on what's next. So I appreciate you sharing that. Yeah. So the before we get to the last question, and the last question is kind of that summary, which we're going to talk to is what do you think the most important thing is we talk about. But before we do, what advice would you give to a boss or a supervisor in managing someone like you so you can be your best? So I want you to step in, and again, my guess, because of knowing you, is that you've had these conversations already. Oh, yeah. For someone who hasn't, so someone who is supervising thriving young professionals, what advice would you give to them?
First, probably like a deep breath and a coffee. If my managers are there, I think that's probably listening. That's probably what they're like. Oh, here she comes. You never know which way the storm's coming from, right? Until it blows into your office door. But so advice to a boss managing someone like me. First and foremost, if you're looking at someone who's ambitious, who cares, who's passionate, who wants to be successful, listen to them. Take the time. And I am going to speak from this has worked, and it's why I'm here 9 years, is this is what my leadership does. They listen, even if they've done this and they've been in this job 15, 20, 25 years, and then they know a solution. They don't settle on, well, I know what I'm doing, so I'm just going to tell you what to do. They let me think through my ideas, and they're open to trying new things. I want to tell a really quick story here. My mentor, my late mentor, he passed away earlier this year. His name's Ken Hall. Fantastic mentor. But I was an energetic 22, 23-year-old that wanted to be doing sales, not from cold calling. I wanted to be out in the market. I wanted to be at events. And I vividly remember a conversation between the two of us where it's like, but you need to hit these KPIs. And I am looking at him. He's very tall. And I'm like, but I want to do it this way. And like, this is why. Give me 6 months. Give me 6 months. And eventually I broke him down, and he was like, okay, go ahead. I'm going to give you I'll pay for the events. We'll do it. And that led to me building my success at this organization that way. And it wouldn't have happened if he just said, no, go pick up the phone. And that openness, that willingness to listen, and not to always just say, this is the way we do it, so this is how you need to do it. And of course, I had to do other things as well. I had to make the phone calls. I still have to make the phone calls. But how do we come together and give the tools and allow someone who wants to be successful every tool they need, and allow them to build their own house with it?
And so, I just hearing that, so, kudos to your mentor. I know about his passing, and, kudos to you, because what you just described to me is great situational leadership. It's listening and hearing each other, and also understanding, why you're at work, like, what your job description is, and also, how to nurture someone so they can continue to thrive. So that's good advice for any generation, anyone at any age at work.
One more comment on that with continued. That's one example, but these happen all the time. My managers will let me come in and vent out a situation, or just come in and chat about something unrelated to work entirely, and give me the space as a chatterbox to come in, have a conversation. Our president talks about around 4 p.m. is my witching hour. So I've officially stopped being focused, and I just start to wander. And he'll be like, all right, come wander over here and let's talk,
Yeah. Well, again, to me, that just sounds like nurturing your creativity, and understanding kind of your strengths and bringing them out. And, at 4 o'clock, your quote unquote witching hour, that just may be, okay, she's switching gears, and we can brainstorm together. And
Exactly.
that, what you call venting, might just be, oh, you're bringing out ideas that, your boss hasn't heard.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up with our final question, but we just got final comment from Nancy Harris. Hi, Nancy. We've got Chicago in the house with Nancy.
Hi, Nancy.
She talked about the importance of listening and empowering people to make their own decisions, which I think exactly described what you experienced from your mentor and your current boss too. All right, so our final question. I always just like my guests to kind of share what they think was the most valuable thing that we spoke about today. I call them what's a big rock here? What's the most important takeaway that you think?
So Nancy summarized it well. It's important to listen and empower people to make their own decisions. As far as finding success in your career, if you're falling in a similar demographic to me, find a place where you can use your voice and you can be heard, because that will get rid of some of that anxiety and that frustration around going to work. Can you use your voice in this workplace? And if not, let's find a place where we feel like how we want to show up to work is honored and respected.
Yeah.
If you're not, and it doesn't mean I want to speak up. Maybe you don't want to speak up and they're forcing you into these situations where you're like, I would just rather quietly work over here and not have to be pulled into a million meetings.
Right.
Find the place that empowers that and allows you to be, tying it to brand, your authentic self at your workplace.
And, not to get too tactical, those are things, when you're starting to, if you're interviewing for work, if you're thinking about transitioning into both a new role, with a new manager or a new company, you can ask those questions in appropriate ways in interviews or after you get a job offer, so you can understand, is this a match for you that allows you to have what's important to you. If I was talking to someone else, that may not have been their important issue, but you can ask and inquire about that. So that's really cool. I want to say again, what I take away from today's conversation. Again, we touched on a lot of really important value laden topics around work. It's that issue of find a place where you can be authentic, and there's sometimes we do have to adapt. I'm going to a customer and my boss needs me to do X, and it's not necessarily exactly how I would do it. Sometimes you need to adapt and do that. Yep. And when you're in an environment where you're getting support to be who you are, that's the best. Again, it's a privilege. Sometimes if we need to work in a certain environment that doesn't allow that, we're making choices for other things, but that piece of authenticity really came out that I heard you talk the most about. So last, before we say goodbye, Kristen, if people want to talk to you, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah. LinkedIn is fantastic. I'm on LinkedIn every day. So feel free to connect with me, send me a message. I'm totally open to follow-up conversations. If we want to set up coffee, if you're in the Philadelphia area, you want to go out and grab coffee, I'd be happy to do it. Or come ride at Cycle Bar with Julie, come to class. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. That's the best place. Happy to share my email as well.
We'll put that in our comments on LinkedIn, so you can I'll put a link to your profile so people can easily get to you. But I want to thank you. You're inspiring. You inspire me, and hopefully you've inspired some of our viewers. And thanks for everyone who's watching it live or will be watching in the future. We here at Work Life Leader Live have interesting conversations with smart people at the intersection of work, life, and leadership. So take care, everyone. We'll see you the next time. Thanks, Kristen.